From the WDWL TV multiplex, live from the Grumpy Studio, we bring you the pride of the station, The Two Grumpies, starring the grumpy old man, that would be me, and the grumpy vulture. Would you like to take your bow? Take your bow. Very nice, very nice. You know where to go. Look at the camera. There you go. Hello, friends. I had a different topic until I went to the store earlier. And I'll tell you, talk about ignorant, inconsiderate people. You know, I look back growing up and how my grandparents and my parents always taught me to be polite, be helpful, respect your elders. Oh, none of that today. Oh, none. As I've mentioned before, this store has posts sunk in the concrete so you cannot take the cart out into the parking lot. Now, these posts are about 3/4 the width of the cart. You know how a shopping cart is kind of angle shaped? Well, these people, when they go to load their groceries in the car, they'll jam the goddamn cart in between these posts like it's going somewhere and ain't going to roll away. And then, after they load their groceries, you think they would move the cart out of the way for people that are trying to enter the store? No. Today, I pull in the parking lot, I start to walk towards the store, and every opening was jammed with a cart, and then there were there was another row of carts, and it was a big giant cart jam. So there were a couple of people loading their groceries. And I'll tell you what, I'm not one to keep my mouth shut. I start with, oh, geez, these ignorant, inconsiderate people. Watch this. Watch how long it takes to move a cart. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. And of course, the people that are standing there unloading their cart, do you think after they unload their cart, they're going to move it? Fuck no. They just leave it there and wait for me to move it. So every time I go in the store, I end up having to clear carts out in order to get in the store, because those 3 or 4 openings where the carts are parked, you can't get in the store any other way because there are railings to keep you from taking your cart in the parking lot. So those 4 areas, when they're jammed with a cart, you have to move them out of the way. What does it take? What does it take to be polite and considerate? Every year it gets fucking worse. Then I'm shopping in the store, and nothing will piss me off more than when people decide they don't want an item. Do they put it back? No. They put it wherever they happen to be shopping at that point in time. Today, I find fresh cut lunch meat sitting on top of a pop display. I find eggs, a dozen eggs. Now, eggs are $7 a dozen. Where do I find this dozen eggs? These people that changed their mind over in the pet food aisle. I was like, gee, let's let a dozen eggs spoil. Now they're not going to spoil that fast, but what if somebody in the pet food aisle didn't notice? Now I know at night when they close up, they need to inspect the aisles, but most of these employees that are closing up are teenage kids. They want to get the hell out of the store and go home. I'm sure they're not looking. No, they're going right up and down the aisle. So that dozen eggs could have sat overnight. Now, they're not going to spoil, but the store is not going to take that chance. So they're going to throw them out. If Grumpy didn't put them back where they belonged. Same thing with the lunch meat. It was still cold. So the person left it on the pop display. Now here's the thing. In order to check out, you have to go to the front of the store. The lunch meat counter is on the other side of the cash registers. You mean to tell me you couldn't take that lunch meat back up and just, you didn't have to place it neatly. You could have just dropped it in the cooler. No, you leave it back on a display in the middle of the store. It's amazing how many items I find in that store that belong in coolers. You know, today, the eggs, the lunch meat. Also, I find a pound of butter in the pop aisle. You know, it's just goddamn laziness. You can't walk over to that cooler and put that butter back. What are you, too embarrassed to go, oh, I didn't want this? Nobody's going to single you out and say, hey, why are you putting that back? Can't you afford it? No, nobody's even going to pay attention. It's just, I don't know how kids are raised. It seems like the generation after the boomers, it started going downhill with the way kids were raised. And what does it take to be considerate? Are you in that much of a hurry that you can't walk back to that cooler and put the butter back where you got it? Are you that? It just boils down to fucking laziness. Oh, I'll put it here. Maybe somebody will put it back for me. Yeah, grumpy. If I see something out of place, especially an item that needs refrigeration, I will take my time to put it back for you, you lazy asshole. But you know, there isn't a grumpy in every store every hour. I've noticed people will walk past, I could tell you, probably 8 people walk past that lunch meat that was sitting on top of that pop display. It was 12-pack cartons in the center aisle, sitting right on top. At least 12 people walked past it. I picked it up and I took it back up front and put it in the meat cooler where it belonged. Then I continued shopping. It didn't take me but a couple of seconds to walk up and put that back. Same thing with the butter. As a matter of fact, I was going towards the butter aisle anyway. So I picked that pack of butter up and I took it over and I put it back. And I put it towards the back of the cooler so if it was starting to melt, it would solidify right away. Oh God, I just cannot believe how inconsiderate people are getting year after year after year. Oh, God, hang on. Now, I know growing up in the 50s, it was a different generation. It was right after WWII, and people were polite and considerate and kind to their fellow man. People held doors for one another. When did that stop? With my generation? I don't think so. I passed that on to my son. Now, it's also up to that person whether they're going to continue the way they were taught. I think it's the generation after. What is it? Gen Z, Gen Q, Gen P? But every generation after the boomer generation seem to forget the basic principles of how you were raised. I am sure that you weren't raised to be ignorant. I'd like to know where it ended. Where did the politeness and the consideration for your fellow man end? I rarely today see anyone hold the door for someone. Rarely. Although yesterday, I'm getting ready to walk in my little mom and pop store in the corner, and out comes a teenage, I'd say he was somewhere between 15 and 18. He held the door and he said, "After you, sir." I couldn't believe it. I reached down to open the door. A hand come up over my head. I looked back, and it was a teenage boy. "After you, sir." I turned around and I says to him, "You were raised properly. I really appreciate you holding the door, and I appreciate the way your parents taught you." And he said, "No, it's just being polite." I almost had heart failure. This kid is a rarity today. I've already had kids shove me out of the way to get in a store. And that happens a lot. It's like, hey, fuck you, senior citizen, get the hell out of my way. You're walking too fucking slow. I've had it happen several times. Get shoved out of the way. Or they come out of the way and they almost hit you with the fucking door. And you think they would hold it for you? No. We are turning into a world of nothing but a bunch of inconsiderate assholes. That's what I see. It's a me, and screw you world. That's the attitude I see. And it just, oh my God, it just burns my ass. It really does. Where did it end? Are they not teaching it in school anymore? I know in grade school, they drummed politeness into you. Are they not teaching it anymore? Are parents not teaching it? Are we raising a nation full of hoodlums? I would like to find out what goes on in elementary school. How are they teaching? Are they teaching like when I was in grade school? To be polite, to be considerate, respect your elders? Is any of that being taught today? I would like to know. With security the way it is at schools anymore, you can't talk to a teacher. I would love to. I would love to pull into the grade school and talk to a kindergarten teacher or a first grade or second grade teacher and say, how are you teaching today? Are you teaching morals, family values, politeness, consideration, respect for elders? I kind of doubt it. But see, back in the day, you could do that. You could walk in a school and say, hey, could I talk to the first grade teacher or the second? Oh, God, no. Today, security, Jesus Christ. If you can get near the door, if you do get in the building, it's spread eagle, assume the position, you know. That's because all the idiotic bullshit that goes on today. But I would love to talk to a grade school teacher and find out, do they teach morals, family values, consideration of your fellow man, respect for elders? Is any of that taught anymore? I seem to doubt it by what I see on the streets. The only teachers I know are retired, and none of them were grade school teachers. Although I think I will ask my friend, who is a retired teacher, if any of that happened to be taught in later grades. Although she'd been retired quite a while. I'm sure things have changed since she retired. But I'm going to ask her when she was teaching if any of that was even brought up. I kind of doubt it. You can't be that impolite and it not come from school or home. Or I know parents nowadays, they could give a shit, you know. You got your Xbox, don't bother me, you know. That's about the way I think it is nowadays in homes with teenage kids. You got your new iPhone, you got your new Xbox. Don't bother me. They're sure not manners being taught. I'll tell you that much. I know it's grumpy you're on another tirade. Well, yeah. I'm tired of seeing inconsiderate people. You know, food prices are ridiculous. I make the joke, and it's no joke. It's true. I make the joke. The older I get, the stronger I get. And everybody looks at it and goes, really? I say, yeah. Because in 1970, I couldn't carry $50 worth of groceries in one hand. And then they're like, oh yeah, yeah. Especially people from my generation. Today, I had 2 bags, $60. Carried them out one hand. $60 worth of groceries, one hand. And we're not even talking expensive shit. Bread, lunch meat. God, I almost fell over when a goddamn bottle of Heinz ketchup. Jesus Christ. See, the last time I bought ketchup, I made a mistake. I bought Hunt's. I hate Hunt's ketchup. I wasn't paying attention. But it was 2 12-ounce bottles for $3. I was like, oh. Then after I got home, I realized, fuck. Now, I could have gone back. I had my receipt. I was like, screw it. Then I start using the Hunt's ketchup, and it's like, oh, why the hell didn't I take it back and exchange it? So today, 12-ounce bottle of ketchup, $3.15 for Heinz. Now, I could have bought a generic 16-ounce bottle for $1.59. Does anybody really pay attention to generic? It's watered down and it's tasteless because it's made from grade B, C, and D tomatoes, not grade A. And they add water to it to thin out the consistency, to fill more bottles. I couldn't believe it. $3.15 for a little 12-ounce bottle of Heinz ketchup. Back in the day, and everybody's going to say, oh, Grumpy, yeah, I know. Back in 1970, 71, 72, that 12-ounce bottle of ketchup was like 35 cents. And then, perfect example of how the manufacturers screw with you. I had to get a bag of dry cat food. Now, back in the day, that bag was 5 pounds, okay? Today, the same bag, the same exact bag, 3.15 pounds in the 5-pound bag. They just fold the top over a little more. But if you unfold it, it's the same 5-pound bag. And they have slowly, over the years, reduced it. It went from 5 pounds to 4.5 to 4, and then 3.75, and then 3.50, and now 3.15. But the same 5-pound bag. And if you're not paying attention, you don't realize how screwed you are. Yeah. That's how the manufacturers screw with you. They use the same size bag. They fill it with less, and then they fold the top over a couple of more times. But if you unfold it, it's that original 5-pound bag. Have you noticed, like, Breyer's ice cream? How it's shrunk over the years, but they did it slowly. They slowly shrunk the carton. So you didn't notice. That's like Klondike bars. Klondike bars used to be twice as thick as they are today. And they've slowly shrunk them down so you don't notice. I noticed because I hadn't bought Klondike bars in about 5 years. Last summer, I had a coupon, $1 off. I was like, oh, I haven't had Klondike bars in ages. So I bought a pack. I unwrapped it, and I was like, Jesus Christ, where did the bar go? It used to be like this. Now it's like this. Half the thickness. And the price, 2.5 times more. A lot of your 16-ounce bottles are now 14-ounce. Like ketchup, mustard. Yeah, it slowly shrank. You pay more and you get less. But the manufacturers were crafty because they slowly, very slowly, so you didn't notice, especially with ice cream. You used to get a pint. Now it's 14 ounces. Pay attention. Look in the store sometime. I used to get Ben and Jerry's pint. Now Ben and Jerry's is 14 ounces. But the price has gone up 75%. Yeah, I used to buy Ben and Jerry's all the time. And then I stopped. I don't know if that every now and then, I get on an ice cream binge. I'll buy ice cream for 3-4 months and then I stop. And then I may go a year not have a taste for ice cream. And I didn't notice until I got home and I was putting it in the freezer and I was like, 14 ounces? This used to be 16 ounces. It's getting disgusting. And don't get me started on eggs. Large eggs today, $6.59. Jumbo, $7.35 for a dozen. And nobody carries a half dozen anymore. You used to be able to buy half dozen eggs. That disappeared. They need to bring it back. They need to bring the half dozen boxes back. Because who the hell can afford a dozen? And God forbid that you would drop an egg. Oh, geez, it's like dropping gold. And you know, with all this modern medical technology, they can't find a cure for this bird flu? I find that hard to believe. They can't vaccinate these chickens against this bird flu somehow? I read an article the other day. If they discover one chicken with the bird flu, they have to wipe out the whole flock of chickens. If a farmer's got 1,000 chickens, gone. Because they can't take the chance of it spreading. But I find it hard to believe they can't come up with some kind of cure. Modern medicine. How's it helping here? Is anybody working on it? You don't hear anything. No, let's just go wipe out 1,000, 2,000, 4,000 chickens. And I don't know if there's any insurance to cover an egg farmer if they wipe out his whole production. And then you think that he's going to buy fresh stock and start from scratch? I doubt it. He'd say, yeah, shit, it ain't worth it. Because in order to start from scratch, you got to buy little chicks. And it takes quite a long time before them chickens are laying eggs. He can't take that kind of loss. So if his stock gets wiped out, he just gives up. One less egg farmer. And we're losing chickens daily at a ridiculous rate. I read yesterday about the egg thefts. Oh, yeah. People are stealing dozens and dozens of eggs. Yeah, they're shoplifting eggs. That's how sad it's getting. Although, some of these low-income households, they can't afford it. I could see why they'd be stealing eggs. But yeah, the egg thefts. All 50 states. Unbelievable. How embarrassing to get caught for shoplifting a dozen eggs. But it's happening, people. It's happening. And it's going to get worse. Yeah. shoplift a couple dozen eggs and sell them on the black market. Hey, guy standing on a street corner. Hey, I got eggs. You interested? Like back in the day, the joke, the guy had watches, coat full. Now it'll be dozens of eggs. Hey, I got the small, medium, large. What do you want? That's what it's coming to. Believe it or not. Unbelievable. I never thought in my life I would see shit like happens daily. Yeah, people stealing eggs. Although at the cost of a dozen, believe me, I'm sure many honest people have considered it. Especially people with families. I wouldn't put it, I would not put it past an honest person to look at a dozen eggs and go, gee, my kids love eggs for breakfast, but I can't afford them, and steal them. They'll be putting them security tags inside dozens of eggs next, like they have in the high-priced electronic items. You go past the scale, the register, and beep, 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 beep. Yeah, they'll be putting them in dozens of eggs next. Beep, 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 beep. What do you got there? Oh, a dozen eggs. Unbelievable. Just unbelievable. I think a lot has to do with families getting away from religious values. When I was growing up, I had to go to church every Sunday. Now, I haven't been in church in ages. But I still have those values that were instilled in me. The old, thou shalt not steal. Oh, I'll tell you what, I could see seniors doing it. I really could. On what little pittance we get for Social Security, I could see seniors very easily shoplifting eggs, among other things. But see, my generation, we were taught values, moral values. Now, whether everyone from my generation adhered to them today, I don't know. I know I do. Last thing I'd want to get caught stealing a dozen eggs. But it was a different time. Different generation. Different family values. God, my parents didn't even have a key to our house. They broke it, and it was one of them goofy skeleton keys. Nobody had to worry. Shit, people left windows open. They didn't have to worry about somebody breaking in their house. My father used to leave the keys in his car. Wouldn't try that today. Yeah. He'd throw the keys on the floor. That way he knew where they were in the morning. I remember. He'd take the keys out of the ignition, throw them on the floor. I'm like, Dad, don't worry about them. Okay. Never had a car stolen. And he wasn't the only one. I remember the neighbor next door would leave them in the ignition. Many times. I'd go over, walk past the car, look in, there's the keys, stick in the ignition for the whole world to see. He never had a car stolen. But it was a different time, different generation. You didn't have to worry about locking your doors and closing your windows. Now, Christ, houses are locked up like goddamn fortresses. Burglar bars, cameras everywhere. It's sad. It really is. When you have to resort to having cameras 360 at your house, alarm systems. Didn't I like this? I could probably say easily out of 30 houses, at least 15 have alarm systems, if not more. You see the signs in their front yard. Alarm company, alarm company, alarm company. And that's not counting the ones that got them Ring doorbells, you know. I don't pay attention to those. But yeah, drive up the street. I've never seen so many alarm company signs in my life. It's sad when we have to resort to that. Back growing up, I think the only person in my neighborhood that had an ADT alarm happened to be a deputy sheriff. I always thought, gee, you're a deputy sheriff. You got guns all over the place, and you got an ADT system on your house. But maybe that was probably because he had guns in the house. But he was the only one. And that was unheard of back in the 50s and 60s, an alarm system on your house. Now, you drive up the street and that's all it looks like. And every alarm company imaginable. I never knew there were so many alarm companies out there. I see every name in the book. Sometimes I wonder, do these houses really have alarms? I'm not going to try it. Be my luck, and sirens would go off, lights would be flashing at you. Well, although I'll tell you, the guy that invented the Ring doorbell is probably a gazillionaire. Because when I watch a lot of these police videos, that's the footage you see from Ring doorbells. I was like, gee, is everybody got a Ring doorbell today? Am I the only one that don't have one? I'll show you my doorbell. Here's my doorbell. Right here. That's my doorbell. If that don't scare you, nothing will. Here, I'll give you again. That's Grumpy's doorbell. I couldn't pass that up. I saw that on Temu.com. It was only $3. I'm like, hey, even if it don't work for shit, I think it's kind of neat. I might buy another one. Put one on both doors, front and back. Scare the shit out of somebody. I keep it in the studio. I'm going to take it home and I'm going to put it outside my side door. Scare the shit out of my mail lady when she rings the doorbell. Like, whoa! Yeah, I couldn't. I saw it and it was like $3.29. I was like, even if it don't work for shit, it's worth a try. I think it's a neat item. I'm having fun with it. Of course, I sit here in the studio and I ring my own doorbell. I'm going to have to see if they have any others like that. And the way I found that, I happened to be looking at doorbell cameras, and I was like, what the hell kind of doorbell camera is this? And then it said, scare your neighbor. I was like, oh, okay. And then I ordered it. And I was like, hey, this is fun. But it's amazing how many different companies make doorbell cameras. There must have been 50. And I didn't even look at all of them. All with, monitor screens so that you could see who's outside your door. Two-way communication. Unbelievable. It's a sad world that we've come to when you got to arm your house like Fort Knox. And then, the auto manufacturers that came up with these key fobs. Yeah. The major problem is Kia must have bought some cheap Chinese software because kids found an app to start a Kia and shut the alarm system down and steal the cars. Oh, God. There was a group of kids up in New York. There were like 8 or 10 kids in this gang. They were stealing Kias left and right. Yeah. You can get an app for your phone to steal a Kia. Real good software there, Kia. And the strange thing is, Kia and Hyundai are the same company. How is it that Kia got the cheap-ass shitty software in their cars and Hyundai didn't? Same company. Evidently, the purchasing department at Kia went, we can save a couple of bucks if we buy this software rather than the software that Hyundai's buying. And then they found out kids could get an app for their cell phone and walk up to a Kia, shut the alarm off, start the car, and steal it. Yep. Yeah, it was hilarious. They called them the Kia Boys. Oh, they got into some high-speed pursuits with them kids, too. Then when they caught them, they found out. Yeah, you can get an app. Now, they didn't divulge where they got the app from. But yeah, you get an app for your phone. Steal a Kia. Maybe that's the app, stealakia.com. I don't know. I guess the old built-in alarm system wasn't so good after all, was it, Kia? You know, the auto manufacturers started doing their own alarm systems. And they're not as good as the aftermarket systems. Because I'll tell you what, the aftermarket systems can't be defeated. But unfortunately, you know, with alarms coming on cars, they kind of put the aftermarket companies out of business. I wouldn't trust an alarm system on a car today. Not at all. Kia, they proved it with Kia. And I'm sure there's other apps out there for GMs and Fords and yeah, the auto manufacturers went, oh, we'll make our cars theft-proof. Nothing is theft-proof. If it's got software, the software can be cracked. But you never saw that with the aftermarket systems. So what are the aftermarket alarm companies doing that the auto manufacturers aren't? Better software. That's why I drive an old manual transmission vehicle. Best anti-theft item on earth. Because none of the younger generation knows how to drive a manual transmission today. Shit, I leave mine running. I go in the store. Nobody gonna steal it. They don't know how to drive it. Not to mention they wouldn't want it, but I mean, just saying. Yeah, I go up the corner store, I pull in and leave it run. Nobody gonna steal it. Not my shitbox anyway. And with that, I think it's time to do an outro. And wrap it up for tonight. We know where, right here, WDWL TV, Grumpy Studio. Getting closer to 7 o'clock every day. I'm trying, folks. And with that, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Grumpy ain't watching it. And with that, I bid you a wonderful rest of your evening.